We're doing it now, so like that. So I have the wonderful Mr. David Peck on. How are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm moderately okay. It's actually quite. You're actually the first really official guest that I'm having on, because David Porto and I did 2 episodes so far. We did an introduction to WTC last week, and then he liked doing it so much he hit me up day before yesterday. He said, "Hey, are you available tomorrow morning? Let's do another one." And so we talked about our collecting, how we collected, just like that.
Sure.
And you're one of the first people I've reached out to. I had some guys on Twitter hit me up saying, you should get so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so on, and so like that. But everybody universally says I should get you on first. Because you have an impressive collection, man. I've been doing some homework on you last night and this morning, checking out, and you've been all over the place. I mean, you've been on, I think, PSA's website, of course, their website. I think PW Torch did an interview with once. There's the Sports Card Show had you on. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna get something new with this guy. But no, he's been around doing all kinds of stuff over the years.
Well, there's a handful of people that are sort of known in wrestling card circles online. So it's not like baseball where there's a gazillion different people to choose from. So and the other thing is I do a lot of content on Twitter and the message boards and stuff over the years. So I'm easy to find.
Yeah, especially Twitter. You're heavy on Twitter. Is that your main format of social media for you? Is Twitter?
Yeah, I used to do a lot on my Facebook page just for fun, but we're in a period of time right now where if you don't really fall into super woke culture, you have to be very, very careful. And so with all this cancel culture stuff going on, and so I've really reduced my Facebook to basically wrestling cards and the food I cook. And so, no more opinions out of me. But I don't know, maybe like a year ago or thereabouts, I started putting some content out on Twitter, and people like it. And I think there's what's interesting is there's just so many. I hate to use the word old school, but old school wrestling fans. I mean, they're just everywhere. And so with the trading cards, there's a lot of stuff that takes you back and some neat stuff to show.
You find that you're getting better reactions on Twitter than, because social media is a pretty weird subject for me anyway. It's like that I handle multiple social media pages for a couple of conventions, obviously for Vela cards and other things. But Twitter always seems to be the low end for me as far as follows go. It's weird.
Well, I tell you something. I don't really have a lot of followers. You mentioned I've been on some of these shows, so that has caused that to go up some naturally. Because they'll say, "Hey, check out David on Twitter." Mm-hmm. But the real trick to Twitter is the hashtags. And I used to do tweets where I tag a bunch of people, and sometimes that works good, sometimes it doesn't. But if you hashtag stuff, it seems to get shared. And then the real issue is just hoping somebody retweets something. Like Jerry the King Lawler, for example. I've done some Lawler posts, and actually I thought it was kind of neat. He followed me, which was cool.
That's always it's a cool feeling, isn't it? Sometimes when you get like someone like that.
Yeah, I mean, I like King Lawler. He's cool.
He's a cool guy.
That said, if Dave puts out a tweet and it gets seen by some number of people, right? It's not like doesn't like go crazy. If all of a sudden you get a retweet from, let's say, Jerry Lawler, the number of impressions and shares and retweets, really goes up. So I think that's why Twitter is weird too, because you sometimes feel like you're like sending stuff out into an abyss.
Yeah.
I mean, where it's like, is anybody going to even respond to this? But I kind of went there. Like I've done a lot on PSA's message board. I've done a lot on Net 54 over the years. And that's kind of you put stuff out and sometimes people respond, sometimes they don't, but it's card collectors, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I decided with Twitter was that I wanted to kind of take wrestling cards and create information and give it to people who don't maybe necessarily collect wrestling cards or are just directly in the hobby.
You finding the wrestling card hobby is growing right now?
Oh, exponentially. The number one driver is Gary Vaynerchuk. Gary V
Love
has
Gary V.
really, what's that?
I love Gary V.
I like his enthusiasm. I think he's good for the hobby. The only people who don't like Gary V are the people that think he's sort of talks his book and he's flipping and stuff. And, listen, the guy's worth like $200 million. If you really think that he's buying a $30 wrestling card to get rich, I think you're kind of crazy. But
he's not going to buy the New York Jets on wrestling cards.
No. So, but Gary, what's really cool is he started posting about wrestling cards. And the amount of comments that are taking place, the amount of people saying, oh man, I got to get some of these. And him himself, he's an aggressive buyer, and so the prices of wrestling cards really at all levels have firmed up. I mean, even stuff that, and I hate to call it junk, but like take 87 Tops WWF. 10 years ago, you could get a box for like $15. Today that might be $150. And maybe that's an outlier sale, but they're routinely at least 100.
Yeah.
So, even the stuff that was plentiful and maybe not even considered high quality is up. So the good stuff, like before we got on the air, you mentioned a few of some of the rare cards you have. I mean, there's some diehard collectors out there right now, and all it takes is a few of them when the supply is low and to get prices up, and that's what's happening.
That's what it's supply and demand, always supply and demand. So you're known for your 82, 83, Pro Wrestling All-Star collections like that. But when did you start collecting specifically wrestling cards?
Well, they go hand in hand. Basically, in 2009, when Brock Lesnar was getting ready to go into the UFC, and I knew he had tried out for football, and so I said, let me go see if he's got any football cards. For some reason, I remembered that they had put him in some of those sets, and so I found some Lesnar cards. I bought one of his Upper Deck Sweet Spots for $25. Actually, I bought two. And I remember being like, damn, that's kind of expensive, because I think a lot of people don't realize how cheap wrestling cards were in 2009. So bought a few of Brock's cards for like $2, $1.50, etc. And I just said, I remember Hogan had a Topps card when I was a kid. Let me see what one of those goes for. And in the process of searching for that, I found a set of the 1982 Wrestling All-Star Series A and Series B. And the guy wanted like $3.99. Now, these had graded cards. This one had a PSA 9 Hulk Hogan, which is a tremendous card, and a PSA 9 Jerry Lawler. Those were the only two cards shown. And then on the 82B, there was some VGS graded. There was Iron Sheik 9.5, Sergeant Slaughter, and Tito Santana 9s. And so I passed on them the first week. I just thought, this is more than I'm kind of planning on spending. And they didn't sell. Another week goes by. There's like a day to go. I put in the bids at $199 and $159. I said, that's a little more, I think, reasonable relative to what I was seeing. Mm-hmm. And woke up in the morning and I had won. And matter of fact, I didn't even know who was in the sets until I got them. And so the guy sent me a box. He actually sent me some duplicates, which, I'm sure in hindsight, he's probably disappointed he did that.
Kicking himself in the ass for that.
Yeah. So I opened them up, and sure enough, like Andre the Giant has a card. Ric Flair has a card. I'm like, Kerry Von Erich. I'm like, wow. And so at that time, I started, when you contacted me on Twitter, your website is instrumental in my collecting. I literally, because a lot of people don't realize there's not a lot of information historically on wrestling cards online. And so once I got those sets, I had started doing a lot of research on card grading and other, I know wrestling is scripted, but a lot of people call them sports cards. Some people call them non-sport. but there's a lot of non-sport, like the Three Stooges and Superman, you know, in the vintage category, where I realized that, man, there's a lot of these graded, and there's people that are trying to piece together, you know, the best condition sets.
Correct.
So in that, I decided to go all in and started buying everything wrestling, basically from the 80s, and some of the magazine sets, the paper sets, right then and there, you know. So August of '09 is when it started, and I've never stopped.
The paper sets. Oh yeah. How'd you find out about those? You just stumble across them?
No, your website. What I did was I would go through your checklists and, you know, look at the images, and then, you know, it'd give you clues on what to buy, and some of the distribution techniques, you know, like as far as like the 78 paper cards and the 81 paper cards. Yeah, I used your website, you know. And
so funny that you say that. I have a buddy of mine in Garden Grove. He just got hired a couple months ago with PSA.
Okay.
As part of their research team.
Nice.
So during his, it's like a dream job for him. He's so happy about it. Because he was the one that actually kind of got me to even start doing an actual website. Because before WTC, I had a website called ComCollect. And ComCollect was all about, supposed to be an online price guide for non-sport cards, but the only 4 categories I had were things I collected: wrestling, Star Wars, Playboy, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay.
And so he went in for his interview, and the lady had asked him if he had any history in doing any like type of research. That's primarily what he's gonna be doing. He says, not really. I said, my friend started a website called Wrestling Trading Cards, and I helped him out with a little bit with that. And she goes, wait a second, WrestlingTradingCards.com? And he said, yeah. She goes, oh, we use that site all the time for, you know, authenticating purposes like that. I go, get out of here. Get the fucking, really? Seriously?
No, they do. And I'll tell you what, if when people have had a hard time getting stuff authenticated, myself or the guy that's probably been the most instrumental in getting PSA to grade more sets than anybody is a guy named Rob England. He goes by Wrestling Card King.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's worked many times with the research department and printed out checklists from your website, or in the comments section, say visit WrestlingTradingCards.com.
Sure.
So yeah, man, I mean, your site's been a huge help. And, you know, to this day, anytime anybody wants to get started with wrestling cards, I say, just go to this website and scroll through the checklist, and you get a better feel for what exists, and go from there.
It's always fun when I do these conventions. I see someone come up to, like, if I'm working with like a Lita or a Kevin Nash, and someone brings up a trading card, and I go, oh, you collect wrestling cards? Have you ever heard of a website called WrestlingTradingCards.com? And, you know, I'd say probably 75 to 80% of the time they say yes, they have. So that's always a good feeling to know that information is being put out there, that people are actually utilizing it. Because it took a lot of time and effort to try to get that information, because there was nothing on the internet to find it. So it's basically, if I had it in hand, then I knew it existed. I could detail it and find out what it was, and I can archive it basically. Because what inspired us to do WTC was another site called Vintage Archive.
Yeah.
And I personally didn't like the layout. It was strictly just text, of just endless amounts of text. And I'm like, I think I could do better. And so I started doing it.
There's a guy named, is it Steve Tomake?
Yes, that's the guy who owned that site, I believe.
Yeah, it's a great resource. It's just, it doesn't flow very well.
It doesn't flow very well, and I feel bad about our site not being updated. It hasn't been updated.
It's hard to find.
Huh?
You got to like really search the Google to like get it to come up. Like it's I usually, what'll happen is I'll search for like an obscure wrestling card, and that's how I'll find the site to use the site. So that's not good.
Oh, yeah, it hasn't been updated since, I think the last time I had an entry was in 2010. So, I mean, algorithms change over the years like that. You're not updating your keywords like that. You're just going to get pushed way to the bottom of the line. But yeah, so I mean, you started, that's surprising me. I thought you would have probably started even earlier, like as a kid, probably collecting cards.
Well, yeah, I did. I grew up collecting baseball cards. So I had, was really heavy into baseball. I mean, when I say heavy, just I liked them. I never had like, some crazy collection. And so I did some basketball, and I collected some of the cards I wanted in the 80s and my early 20s and mid 20s. But, like when I got started in my career, I bought a few, but I just was more interested in saving my money. I got my condo. I was wanting to dabble with the stock market, save for my retirement accounts and stuff. And so it really just wasn't a big focus. And so the 2009 situation was really unique because I can't in any capacity say that when I started searching for Brock Lesnar cards that I know that, we'd fast forward in life and I'd spent every single day since then, looking for wrestling cards on eBay. So got a while.
How do you go about looking for cards right now? Are you strictly an online guy? Do you ever visit, swap meets, card shows?
No, I did go in 2013 to the National Card Convention. It was pretty cool. One of my wrestling card sets, I've got the Wrestling All Stars sets in the PSA registry, and one of those won an award. And so I was pretty pumped. I wanted to go get it in person. But, the thing about going to the card shows is there's not a lot of wrestling material at those type shows, usually dominated by baseball and basketball. Now, I will say, anecdotally, from seeing people I know online, there's been a little bit more the last few years, and I suspect that'll continue. But no, I mean, I for the most part am eBay. And one of the things that has really been beneficial on being on the various social media platforms is I get people contacting me to sell stuff. I mean, I had a really cool situation just about 2 weeks ago. This guy named Mark James, who runs a Memphis wrestling website and is I'll use the term famous. He's a famous wrestling author. He contacted me, and there's a guy that's Jerry the King Lawler's right-hand man, and he had Lawler's Wrestling All-Star sets that he had gotten from Norman Keitzer when they were first produced. So I ended up buying 6 sealed 82A sets just recently and a Raw one. So I picked up 7 new sets. And these were, legitimately from Jerry King Lawler's, private collection. Over the years, he's given this guy stuff. I think it's just kind of like a bonus. Lawler's pretty well off financially and stuff. So it's really cool.
I'd give you stuff in trade here. Here's some crumbs. Hey, go ahead.
But yeah, no. So I mean, I've bought lots of stuff. People contacting me saying, "Hey, are you interested?" And I'm always in the market. I mean, I will say this that I've got enough of a lot of the stuff to where it needs to be something that I think is good. Like if you look at like the Wrestling All Stars, I've got a couple thousand Raw singles, and I'm not buying Raw singles that aren't going to grade high.
Sure.
And I think there's a lot of people out there that aren't really that knowledgeable on card grading. Either one, they just haven't done much of it, or two, haven't graded specific cards. And so the Wrestling All Stars are very challenging from a card grading perspective. A lot of them are off-centered or have print issues and corner issues. So you'll see a lot of
when they first came out, they were shrink wrapped at first like that. So it's just those top and bottom cards are going to get, the corners are going to get hit hard.
They do. They really do. I mean, it's I think that some of the better ones survived that were taken out of those packs like in '82, because I've never once opened a sealed set and pulled a nice Andre, or a nice Rick Martel. It hasn't happened. But there's some, matter of fact, in 2010, I bought some singles there was a website called WrestlePrints.com.
Okay.
And that guy actually is the one who bought out Norman Keitzer. And so he bought his Wrestling News magazine, all the photographs, and I guess he had some leftover cards. And so I got a couple of nice Andres off his website, and it's possible they were never circulated. It's hard to say. I don't really know.
That's Those are getting, are they still commanding, those guys, they know the value of their cards, obviously. Are they still selling at a high price? Are you getting good deals on these?
From where?
Any sources? I mean, right now, because I mean, if you're still buying, are you still getting good deals? Because they got to know what the market price on this stuff is now. You promote so much, they know what the market price is, and they're willing to sell to you. They're going to sell to you for a high price. Are you getting good deals or no?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. Everybody's definition of a good deal is different. And I would say this, that yeah, I've had some pretty good wins over the last few years because there's a great discrepancy between raw prices and graded prices sometimes.
Huge.
And I've graded a lot of these cards. So, I'm willing to take chances. And so I bought some nice sets off eBay over the past couple of years where I felt confident that I was getting some good cards. So, but yeah, I mean, now everybody wants top dollar or even more than top dollar.
Sure.
And, this run in the trading card market the last 4 months, I mean, wrestling cards and specifically the All-Stars have really been on a big upsurge. So it's been pretty fun.
What's an average price go right now for a set on average?
Well, I don't think I can
ungraded.
It'd be really tough to say because, you take the 82A, for example. If you had, let's say, an Andre in an EX5 condition, a Hulk in a 5, or maybe a Flair in a 6, it's probably, $1,000 or something on eBay. But man, you put some nice ones up and, a set could be easily a couple grand. I mean, graded sets would go, for in many cases drastically higher than that. I mean, it's a Hulk Hogan 8, right? So a near mint grade, which is not super high when you think about modern cards, but it's actually a pretty decent grade for the Hogan. One of those went for $1,802 the other night. So yeah, I mean, we're seeing some explosive prices. So
I got to get to my California storage, man.
You really should, because even a 6 on a Hogan went for $1,385 2 days ago. That's huge. So I don't know if these prices are sustainable. Time will tell. I think what's happened, honestly, is the card market, like superstar cards from every genre, whether it's non-sport like Pokemon and Magic the Gathering, or wrestling or basketball, they're going up. And when you've got some I don't know if you keep up with the baseball and basketball, but there's a Mike Trout right now, the super refractor in Golden Auctions, and that's going to go for probably $3 million. Now, a LeBron James just sold for $1.8 million.
Yeah, it's almost $2 million it sold for.
Yeah, so I think
I've noticed that Tyson cards are going up too.
Oh yeah,
big time.
Yeah, I prospected heavily in wrestling and Mike Tyson. So this has been a sort of enjoyable few weeks of watching card prices. And I tell you, I don't know about you, but this COVID thing has been affecting a lot of people, and so this sort of exciting trend in trading cards has been one of the few bright spots,
Well, I've always, my other business like that has seen a huge spike since this whole thing started. And just people are staying home. They're not going anywhere. They're not flying anywhere. They're reinvesting in their hobby and their collections. I've always felt that collectibles as a whole is pretty recession proof. It really is. In 2008, when I was doing the convention scene, we had a convention to do in Novi, which is like a suburb of Detroit. And we were doing, it was called Motor City Comic Con. And we were really worried because in 08, that's when the market crashed, housing was bad, the automobile industry got hit hard. And that's like the heartbeat right there. And we're like, this is going to be a horrible show. No, it was the opposite. It was one of the best shows we ever did because people couldn't afford to buy a new big screen TV or a new car or go on a big vacation. They could spend $45 meeting a celebrity. That was something to keep them, their mind going. People's, vendors were having all-time sales because nobody else was spending money on anything else. They just had a little bit of money to buy a $10 thing here or a $5 card there or a $25 action figure or something like that. So I've never had a problem in any economic downturns with collectibles. It always seems to be kind of either same or spikes a little bit. But this past 4 months has been something I haven't seen in probably 20 years.
Yeah, this is what's really transpired is there's been a huge number of collectors come into the card hobby. And, you know, wrestling's been a benefactor, but just in general, like baseball, soccer, Pokemon, you know, basketball, you name it. And the way you can tell is engagement online is up, right? And also, if you look at the bidding list, if you look at the page views, the watch count, there's a website, watchcount.com, where you can go see, you know, how many people are watching, let's say, an eBay auction. It's through the roof. And those numbers don't lie. And so I think that the reality of it is, like, you know, you're obviously a total expert on wrestling cards. I mean, the production levels of wrestling cards are so much lower than the traditional sports. So we're
unless you're 2016 and been, you know, 2015 above tops right now, they keep pumping out stuff left and right, like went out of business. I swear to God.
But like, take 85 tops baseball. I bet you the production's 1/10. Or it's 10 times. I mean, the wrestling's probably 1/10. That might even be high. It might be 1/20th of the baseball, you know. So it doesn't take a lot of new interest to get prices moving.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it is what it is.
It's funny because I remember when 85 tops was the first wrestling card I ever bought. I was at a liquor store, and they actually had it in the liquor store section right there with next to like GPKs. And other stuff, and some sports stuff. I thought, oh, I'm a big wrestling fan. My grandmother got me into wrestling when I was a kid, and I know who Hulk Hogan is. Who doesn't know who Hulk Hogan is? And so I got my first few packs. You know, I bought. That's what got me hooked on it. But yeah, wrestling as a whole is just it's surprising to see cards going up in value, because trading cards traditionally are always the bottom end of a collectability. Always, it's always been jerseys and helmets and action figures and this and that other memorabilia, and cards have always been the bottom end. And that's in everything, wrestling too, because people collected magazines and action figures and you know, replica belts, things like that. I mean, you've got, you know, action figures sitting behind you. It's like that. That's what people want, you know. So cards have always been the bottom end of the collective totem pole. So it's surprising, and it's cool to see that people are finding an interest in the trading cards aspect now again.
Well, I tell you, one of the things I like to do is scour eBay just for wrestling related stuff. And you're seeing some of the sale prices of trading cards are actually, I take that back, it is the top now price wise. I mean, I don't know if you saw in the past 2 weeks a PSA 9 1982 Wrestling All-Stars Hulk Hogan
card autographed.
Went for $20,000, and that's a legit sale.
That is insane.
Yeah, I mean, I can't honestly say I thought it was going to go that high. I mean, that shocked me. I stayed up. It ruined my next day because I stayed up till like 1 o'clock to watch it finish. And then with all the excitement that was taking place online afterwards, because basically it was pretty cool. There's a guy, Jeremy, I can't pronounce his last name off the top of my head, who he makes like action figures, and he's really well known on Instagram and Twitter. And anyway, he was the underbidder, and some guy claimed it, showed his I'll use the word receipt from Probstein.
Sure.
And you know, Darren, oh, I know what it was. Darren Ravel tweeted it out, and you know, the guy claimed it, and you know, obviously the haters were like, I can't believe you spent that much money on this, that, and the other. I'll tell you this right now. One of the reasons that you know, I used to take on the naysayers on the message boards was, I said, listen, you don't understand. There's wrestling cards, but a lot of these are pop culture cards, okay? You know, Hulk Hogan, he can't go in the airport and not be mobbed, okay? I mean, he's one of the most recognizable human beings on the planet.
Yeah.
Whereas you could take some of, I always use Mike Schmidt as my example. Mike Schmidt, tremendous baseball player. His cards are popular. He could walk in the Orlando airport and, you know, might get approached by a few people, but he doesn't have TMZ tracking him down, being like,
true.
Do we get an interview? So I always knew that, you know, Ric Flair, for example, you know, like one of the things that helped his cards, you know, you remember a couple years back when the, I want to say it was Indianapolis Colts, you know, they started doing some of his sayings in the locker room and putting it on Twitter. That stuff matters. I mean, it creates interest, and, you know, creates nostalgia. And so I've always thought that Hogan stuff, was going to get hot, and Hogan right now is on fire.
I mean, he's the Babe Ruth of wrestling, man. I mean, there's not very many household names even in wrestling. I mean, I'm talking just taking Hulk Hogan to anywhere. Go to like some Mormon town in Utah and it's like that. You can mention Hulk Hogan, they'll know who he is. So I mean, he's huge. So as a person who invests in this like that, when you bring up the 82 set, you talk about Hogan, and there's a pretty controversial thing here with rookie cards. Love talking about rookie cards. My partner David and I love talking about rookie cards. What are your thoughts on rookie cards coming from wrestling?
That's a really challenging topic, in the sense that Andre the Giant's probably the best person I can use as an example. So Andre has a 1973 wrestling annual paper card.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you look at those magazines, it clearly states cut them up and trade them with your friends.
Sure.
So that would be technically a trading card, right?
Sure.
But they're like newspaper. So then you go to 74, and he's got these little miniature cards from Japan, the Yamakatsu cards. Now those have Japanese writing on the back, and they're smaller than a standard trading card. But they were pack issued, and they're a little more hard stock. Then he's got other Japanese trading cards. He's in the 78 wrestling annual paper cards. He's in the 81, but the 82 is the first hard stock North American set, outside of, in 1979, there's a set, the Rax roast beef cards that were given out at the Nick Goulash show. So if somebody wants to be technical, those are the first quote unquote hard stock wrestling cards from the US. But so, to me, I like the 82A set. And I think that, if somebody wants to call the 73 Andre's rookie, I'm fine with that. If they want to call the 82.
Yeah, but even going there, does any of those even qualify what makes a rookie card?
Yeah, see, that's one of the things. I got into it a little bit with a guy on Twitter who works for Beckett, and his belief is it needs to be a nationally issued card.
A widely released cards, not regionals, not from a publication. Yeah. It's not a chase card, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I guess what I would say is this. I just go for what I think's the best, And so, like, you take the 82 Hogan. His first hard stock trading card is the Poppy from Japan, the 81 Poppy. Now, the reality of it is, though, the 82 set that was issued in January of 82, the Wrestling News used pictures from different eras for those cards. So the photograph of Hulk is actually from 79. The photograph of Andre is from 78. So if you look at the 82 Wrestling All-Stars Hogan, it actually features the youngest picture of him that he's ever profiled in. And so if somebody says, hey, I think it's the 81 Poppy, sounds good to me. Somebody says it's the 82 Wrestling All-Stars, sounds good to me. That's not really a debate that I even care to get into. I mean, because at the end of the day, there's some of these where it's sort of not disputable, like the 2002 WWE Fleer Royal Rumble. It's got John Cena and Brock Lesnar and Randy Orton, Bautista. Those probably fit the technical definition of a rookie card, right? But the conversation we were having on Twitter is, I put out a tweet of Sting's 1987 Wonderama test card, right? And I said, this is the true rookie of Sting. And of course, the guy fires back, no, it's not. Here's why, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's try an experiment. Let's put an 87 test Wonderama Sting on eBay, and then the same exact identical one, card number 17 from 88 Wonderama, and let's see which one sells for more. So to me, whichever one's going to sell for more in that case is the one that you want to own, because that's the best card. The guy that has
the one to own is to each their own who wants to own like that. But the point of the conversation, I think, would be about, like, how does someone define what an actual rookie card is? Is it possible to have wrestling rookie cards outside of the 2002, like you was a perfect example, how would you define a Hogan rookie card? Because you see it on eBay a lot where guys will use different kinds of things. Even the gaming card stuff they will use for like Stone Cold Steve Austin from like some, 1996, board game they had as his rookie card, or his WCW Topps card as a rookie card kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of that, to be completely honest with you. People are fishing for high prices. So like take Stone Cold, just for example. He's in the 91 Chromie from Argentina.
Yeah.
Okay. That's his first appearance on a trading card.
All right. Around here somewhere. I got diamond studs in that one. And
yeah. Now, then you go to the 93 WCW magazine. That's a perforated card. Then you go to the 95 WCW main event. That's the first like glossy hardstock card. Then the real issue with Stone Cold is, okay, that was him as Steve Austin. What about, a stunning Steve Austin? What about his Stone Cold?
Sure.
Now you have people saying, oh, this is his Stone Cold rookie. So
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, that's just not something that's a real big deal to me. Like what I do in a case of Stone Cold is I generally just try to get them all.
Yeah. Do you think that people care about rookie cards in wrestling? Other than the sellers who are trying, like you said, trying to fish for better pricing.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a sub-segment of people that do. I guess
because I wonder then how someone like a PSA or a Beckett, when they go to grade that and you submit it, are they slabbing those things with the RC tag on it or no?
No, and I don't even know. I mean, maybe they do that with baseball, but I'm not familiar with them doing that on anything. But yeah, no, I mean, they don't.
They'll do it. I mean, they'll do it for an 86 Flair Jordan.
I've never seen a PSA one that says RC on it.
No, really?
No.
Oh,
no.
Great.
It'll just say 86, 87 Fleer Michael Jordan. I think it's number 57, and then you'll have the decal number or the cert number.
So even grading services don't even really use rookie statuses for anybody.
No, the only person I've seen do that, I did see that recently on a KSA graded card out of Canada, and the Hulk Hogan, it was an 82 All-Star Hulk Hogan, and it did have an RC next to it. That's the only time I've ever seen one.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've always been wondering because it's been a hot debated topic even on WTC back in the day, message boards. I had a really long discussion about trying to denote what was a rookie card, what wasn't, what qualifies, what doesn't. And that's the weird thing about wrestling. It's not like a sport where you actually have a rookie season for somebody. It's just that kind of weird thing. Then you have extended rookies and then things like that. So it's just always been a hot topic. I was just wondering what your viewpoint on that was.
Well, I think Beckett considers Hogan's rookie the 85 Topps. Okay. So, I love the 85 Topps Hogan. I think it's a great card. It signifies my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I bought some packs of those in 85, didn't buy too many because money was tight and, we were buying the baseball cards, but.
Were you like 3?
I'm 41. So yeah, I was like just turning 6. But yeah, no, I mean, the thing about it is, once again, put a 85 Topps on eBay. They've gone up a lot recently.
Oh, but nothing like 82.
Nah, it's just not the same thing.
It's night and day. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're talking about a higher print run. And I think that 85 Topps and even 87, those end up getting the wonderful traditional black dump product marked across the boxes at one point. So it's even harder to find boxes that don't even have that. Star Wars, same thing. Star Wars had, all those runs got the dump, for a dump product by Topps, they would take a black big giant Sharpie right across the box to note as a dump product because they had so much of it. They printed so much of it.
Yeah, I didn't know. That's interesting. I always seen the X out. I didn't know what that stood for.
It stands for dump product.
Learn something new every day.
Whatever was still left in their actual warehousing before it went to distributors would just get dumped, and then distributors would turn around and go and buy it at a huge discounted rate, and then they just sit on it.
Wow.
That's what happens. So you can find guys who collect boxes too, like empty boxes. It's hard to find one already a good condition box, let alone one that doesn't have a black mark across it. Because most stuff in the 80s and even early 90s a lot of stuff got dumped.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the more popular sets, just in general, is the 86 Topps football. And I know exactly what you're talking about. You'll see these X-out boxes or whatever, and the non X-out box carry a premium when they're sealed.
Yeah.
So I
Oh
agree.
yeah. And they're
That's
hard to find in
interesting.
good conditions too. So like, I mean, like you, wrestling wasn't my first stuff. I mean, I was a big baseball fan too. I'm a fan of all sports. So I got into the hobby by just collecting baseball cards. And on our last episode that I had with David, we talked about it. And I said, I had a shoebox. I just take my shoebox. I made my own little divider in the shoebox. I take construction paper and I have an A and a B and a C and a D. I put all the Astros and Angels together and the Brewers together. I just put them all together and then when I watch baseball, I go, oh, the Dodgers are playing the Yankees. So I got Thurman Munson. I got his card. I have his card right here. It's like that. Oh yeah, he's a good hitter. He hit a lot of home runs last year. So
That's awesome.
that's how I got into collecting cards. And one of the worst trades I ever made in my life was when Walkmans first came out. The Sony Walkman came out, and I had a rookie Tom Seaver and a Johnny Bench rookie cards I had, and I gave them to a guy for a Walkman because I wanted to be the cool kid in the neighborhood and have a Walkman. That broke a week later.
That was definitely a bad trade.
Yeah, I wish I had those cards back. But, so wrestling is primarily is that your main trading card you collect is wrestling? I know you do some boxing.
Yeah.
I've seen some of your stuff like on your YouTube where you feature some stuff in the past. So is that any other cards you collect?
Well, for the most part, it's wrestling. And then what I do is I look for offshoots. So, for example, Brock has football cards. I'll collect his football cards. Dwayne Johnson has a 1994 Miami Hurricanes card. I'll collect that one. Mm-hmm. And then Mike Tyson, I'm into him. And then I've got like a Floyd Mayweather rookie and a Evander Holyfield and some of the Panini stickers of those. But I'd say probably 99% of my collection is wrestling. There's still a few baseball cards. And I actually, to be honest with you, I threw out the vast majority of my baseball cards because, if you had, let's say, an 89 Fleer set, the Griffies were something, maybe a few others, but, I don't know, you pick a name, Mickey Hatcher. That, I'd rather have more space in my condo than have a 1980 Fleer Mickey Hatcher. It's just, it is what it is.
Poor Mr. Hatcher's like that. Yeah. I used to have, 89 was a good year for me collecting too, because I was heavily in the baseball cards at that time because Upper Deck debuted. And I lived in Yerba Linda, California, and Upper Deck's main facility was in Yerba Linda, California. And so that's where all their distribution was at. And I used to clean model homes for a living back then. And one of the projects that I cleaned was down the street from the Upper Deck area. And so we'd go sneak behind and then go raid their trash bins. And they'd have these big barrels of like all the ink barrels and a big trash can. And you would go through and you find all these uncut sheets inside the trash that were off-centered. And then you would take all of them out as much as you could without getting caught, because that place was like Fort Knox. And then you take them all out and you get all these uncut sheets where, more centered, then more centered, then more centered. And you find like the bottom pack of it was all centered stuff. So I have like uncut sheets with Griffey on it and stuff like that. And I have, you'd go through and you find strings of packs that hadn't been cut yet, but they're all empty. And then you'd find a few packs that had cards in them and just take them all. So it's kind of like, ooh, got like a little, treasure here. But then they moved their stuff but that was fun because you collect a bunch of that stuff that way. Like, we're doing something naughty, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah, that sounds exciting, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you go there and you watch this. You learn the schedule. It's like staking out a place for a robbery. I swear to God. You go there and you see, okay, the morning shift was from this time to this time. There's an evening shift from this time. There's an overnight shift from this time to this time. So we want to go in during this time when there's nobody, no interchange. That back would be open. The door would be open and you can go and look in there and you see pallets of stuff back there. Just like, oh, I could be inside there just taking whatever I want. It'd be great. But that's my last, 89, 90, 91 when I kind of got out of collecting cards completely, everything. I didn't collect anything. And then I started getting into it again in 95, 96. I got into it from the WCW card set. Got me hooked back in there again. And then, of course, Comic Images, when they came out in 98, I was fully hooked in. And that's when I got started, trying to find information for things. And that's kind of where WTC came from, because WTC came from ComCollect, which was my old website. And then I'm archiving all the wrestling stuff. And that's when I stumbled across, I talked to that Vintage Archives. And I just thought, man, it's so hard to read this thing. I can do better than that. And new to even coding. So I thought I can still do better than that. And started doing WTC to kind of keep track of my own stuff. And then if somebody wanted to come to the website and go, oh, I never heard of this set, that's cool. I have it. I can authenticate it. It's right here. I got it. And that's where it kind of grew from. And once Fleer got it, my interest was still pretty high. But then when Topps got the license in 2015, no, 2005, I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's just too much. Of course, the steady income was gone too. My AOL days was gone, so can't really afford it. But I think I dabble here and there still. I don't collect a lot of the new stuff. Do you collect any of the new stuff?
No, to be honest with you, it's not that I think it's necessarily bad. It just, I'd rather focus my efforts on stuff that I like. It's the current wrestling product. I'm not talking about trading cards, but just wrestling in general. WWE is tough right now. It's hard, especially without the fans, but just in general, like the direction of wrestling is a little challenging for me. So that said, when you go back and you collect more of the quote unquote vintage stuff, it brings back better nostalgia, and better connection for me.
Yeah, my partner's the same way. He's very he likes the old school stuff. He's a big fan of 70s and 80s wrestling, and that's his bread and butter thing. And so I think it's when he and I met because of wrestling cards. That's how he and I met. I lived in SoCal. He was up in Bakersfield, about a 3-hour drive from where I was at. And so of all the people in the world to be viewing WTC or ComCollect, found a guy who actually lived in the same state as me, and we became best friends from that.
That's awesome.
So wrestling cards brought us together, and that's kind of where we're at today. So that was like a long time ago. But it's just it's still fun. I do miss opening packs. I do miss the thrill of the chase. But I don't know. Do you keep all your stuff visible? I mean, what do you do with your collection? What does your collection sit? Do you get to see it every day?
Sometimes, yeah, some. I mean, basically, I used to have these cases on the wall that were graded card cases.
I saw that.
And yeah, I mean, they're down over here. My wife and I are redoing the room I'm in, and the other thing is that I know those cases are UV protected. They're said to be, but I have a lot of graded cards that I can't replace.
Yeah.
So if something happened to them, I'd be in trouble. So, but I mess around with them, and then what's sitting behind me underneath this LJN ring, that's a safe, and so I've got a lot of loose cards in there, and over here I've got right now, I don't know, like 30,000 cards sitting next to me in boxes. So, but I've scanned a lot of my stuff, so I check out the scans a lot. But
that's what WTC is for me now. It's just because I don't have an interest in really holding on to cards anymore because my collection now exists online.
Well, I mean, for me, I do like to pick up a card and stare at it and stuff. But I think the cards have really changed over the years. I mean, when I was growing up, we didn't care if a card was off-centered or, all you cared about was the corners. And even then, it was like you try to convince yourself that the corner wasn't bad anyway.
Well, it's not bad. And besides, I got some gum out of it. Who cares?
So the thing is that, in 2010, I started getting a lot of cards graded. And I mentioned Rob England earlier. He did too. And so, that's what, so I'm actively constantly prospecting for cards to get graded, so that's, it's fun. Like I said, I just got some 82A packs, and that was stressful. I opened 3 of them. And let me tell you something, you want to talk about an adrenaline rush, but the challenging thing with those cellophane packs is the top card may look okay. When you move to the second card, I've had this happen to me twice, where every single card in the deck or the pack is dented in one corner. Mm-hmm. And so one of them had they were beautiful, like would have been high grade potentially quality cards, and all of them had a corner ding. So, I think a lot of people don't realize how technical card grading is. You get a corner ding, you're looking at a 5.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, and so that's not the range that I try to collect in. And so, but like the other 2 packs, I've already sent those to PSA, a lot of the cards, and I did pull 2 beautiful Ric Flairs. We'll see how those grade. And so, but I've got quite a few of each of the cards. I mean, I think the Bruiser Brody's the card I have the most of. I've got like 45 of them or something.
Wow.
So yeah, I've got a lot. So,
what's your wife think of your collecting?
Honestly, she likes it because early on, I think she kind of thought it was, okay, all right, Dave.
It's a phase. She'll get over it.
Well, maybe, but I mean, everybody said that I was an idiot for going after wrestling cards. And I was one of the first people to start paying higher prices. And the high prices that seemed stupid back then, now you give your left arm
now.
Yeah, I mean, it's chump change now. So I think she knows how much enjoyment I get out of it. And also, it's really been fun because like I've met some really great people through the hobby. I'm doing your show, for example. I didn't know you.
Yeah, it's the first time meeting each other, really.
You get to know new people. I mentioned I've got a buddy, this guy named Greg Weiss. He's for a side gig. He's a wrestling vendor, so I've gone to some of the wrestling conventions and worked the tables for him. So I was able to get a lot of cards signed and sit and chat with the wrestlers and get drunk and party with them and. So
is that something you like to do with those cards? Do you purposely take maybe a lower graded card and get them signed?
Actually, sometimes I take high grade ones.
Really?
I've been known to crack out. So, for example, and so far, I've been successful on my crackouts. When we went to North Carolina, I think it was WrestleCade, I think is what it's called.
WrestleCade, yep.
Yeah. So Greg had a bunch of people. And my goal was to get a Sergeant Slaughter. So I took a PSA 9 mint. So, I mean, a very, very nice card. Cracked it out of the holder and got Sergeant Slaughter to sign it. Mailed it back to PSA for authentication and grading. And it came back a 9. A matter of fact, I did that with I am the only one to ever grade a 10. So, and it's unfortunately Scott Casey's not that desirable, but I got him to sign a card and it's a 10. That's pretty fascinating. I mean, those are hard to get in general. And actually, one of the ones that was super cool, the first convention I worked was in Orlando at WrestleMania. I want to say it was 33. So, and that's WrestleCon. And so it was my birthday weekend. It was a lot of fun. My wife and I mean, I totally splurged. I sat 8th row at the WrestleMania with her. She went, and those tickets aren't cheap. And so I wanted to see my main guy, Brock, which was amazing. But anyway, I became friendly with Tully Blanchard. And so, I started explaining to him about the cards and, he thought it was fun. So when I went a couple years later to New York for the big event last November, I cracked out a 9 of Tully Blanchard. And we were pumped because I said, Tully, this will be the nicest one you've ever signed. We've got to keep this baby looking good. And sent it to PSA. It got the 9. So, but a lot of them are lower grade because, it is what it is.
Well, I mean, you got to be like just totally worried about like watching them, like how they're handling your card. like just don't touch it.
Well, the risk is this. So you're exactly right. So I did that with Greg Valentine, and so we're up in. Well, Greg is an interesting dude, but he just doesn't listen to you. So whatever. So I went over to him at New York. Hey, what's up? Because I worked his table for both days in Charlotte, and so we're friendly. And I said, Greg, this is a super nice Wrestling All-Stars. I popped this one out of a holder. Don't touch it. No problem. I put it down on the table. What's he do? Picks it up and puts his bare paw. He goes, what's the back say? And I'm just like, damn it, I can't believe he did that. Matter of fact, though, to expand on that, Slaughter tried doing that, and I told him, stay away from this card. He goes, let's see the back. I said, honestly, not yet. We gotta blow dry this thing off. I'm gonna put it back in the holder. Once it's in the holder, you can touch it. He was like, all right.
He's like, wow, you must be serious. Yeah, I told you. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just these guys don't listen sometimes. They just yeah, I work with a lot of them myself. So you know. That's interesting. So it's nice so that you have someone who supports your hobby. My wife is the same with me. She's supported. To me, this is kind of a hobby for me right now, doing these little podcasts and sit down slides. My wife is very supportive of that. So it's kind of nice to have that backing.
Well, it usually costs me money. Anytime I buy something nice that's serious, if I don't sell something, she's like, well, Dave, you just bought that. And next thing you know, I'm buying her a purse or a bracelet or something.
Yeah. Let's close out here with talking about your YouTube channel. So how come you don't use it more to educate people? You're a wealth of knowledge on this release and this series and the numbers and everything more than anybody on this planet, I think. How come you don't use your YouTube to kind of really educate people? It'd be a great resource for people who want to collect.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that. I'm probably going to do a little bit of that. We're obviously on a Zoom call, but I've got, I started to do a Mike Tyson video this weekend to put on YouTube. And one of the challenges is the reflection and the glare when you're holding up cards.
Sure.
and holding the phone. So I've actually got pretty neat. My wife bought me, she goes, Dave, let's get you this tripod. So my smartphone right now is like in a grip and I'm staring at this little tripod. So yeah, I'm probably going to film some videos. You know, I think it's pretty clear. I've spent a lot of time researching the topic and dealing with it. And, you know, I think also like back in the day, what would happen is, you know, I filmed a couple of YouTube videos of before I'd send cards in to get graded. And it wasn't of like your face. So it was just like the cards themselves. And, you know,
that's all needs to happen. It's just, it's all we need to happen. It's just kind of filming the card and you kind of going through things like that. It'd be kind of cool and educational for people.
Well, but I think, and I agree with you, but I think what I found at the time was people, the engagement level, like, let's say you film 13-minute video of a bunch of cards. I'd go to the YouTube analytics and like the average person watched it like a minute and a half, you know, and on top of that, if you don't have a lot of subscribers, you know, it's kind of hard to get page views. Now, this is pre me participating on Twitter. I've done, I don't know, because I've been on Beckett Live now. I've done the Fat Packs. That was their prior show. I think I did that. I've been on their show like 3 times. And so, you know, now I'm getting more followers on Twitter, more followers on Instagram. So, and I would say that the engagement level would pick up some, but, you know, plus the other thing is that I think sometimes, and this is what I found early on Twitter, is like when I would do tweets and nobody would respond, you kind of get a little frustrated. You know, it's
as like, our boy Gary V says, man, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. You just keep putting out content.
Well, I agree with him because what's happened is the more content I create, it seems like, you know, you just, some of it gets going, you know, and I think the other thing too is Twitter right now is the engagement level of card collectors has really, really increased. All one has to do is look at one of his tweets. So, you know, I think the audience has grown quickly, and so that makes it more interesting.
Do you think that Twitter's the primary social media source then for card collecting right now then, especially wrestling card collecting?
Well, I think actually Instagram is probably bigger.
Okay.
You know, so for example, like there are some people like, you know, I have obviously an immense wrestling collection, and you know it's big, right? But and you know the values of wrestling cards have gone up a lot. But you know there's some guys like there's this guy Nat Turner who, I mean, he is one of the top card collectors in the world. I mean, his basketball card collection, his baseball card collection are just absolutely astonishing. This is a guy that he's in the medical business and he sold a company for like a couple $2 billion. He's a young guy too. So, but if you look on Instagram, there is so much card content, especially like in basketball and stuff like that. So I get some engagement on there. So I would just say that I think both of them are high. The typical message boards, I think the challenge there, like I used to post on Blowout. I think there's just a lot of chumps, honestly, that post on those boards. There's a lot of people that are conspiracy theorists and stuff, and same with like Net 54. You get a lot of people that just totally talk out of their ass.
Yeah.
Where they say something like it's the gospel, and you're like, I know for fact that what you're saying is false, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that part sometimes gets a little annoying. And so I use, I'm big on PSA's message board. I've created a lot of content there on Collectors Universe over the years. So, I use a little bit of them all. And for me, honestly, it's entertainment, and it's fun to interact with people and fun to create content. And I think the other thing is one of the things that drives collectors, people like to show off the stuff they buy. I mean,
of course.
Part of the deal.
Yeah, I'm considering what to do with WTC going forward from a social media standpoint, because all we really have is Facebook. And it seems to be our most engaging place anyway, obviously, because we don't have an Instagram or a Twitter. I don't know if I want to do that. I run so many social media pages as it is. I don't know if I want the burden of another one. I just don't know.
Well, I think the
But the reason why I asked about Twitter, because Twitter is a place to go to that you feel it's a place to go to really engage, especially from the hobby for wrestling cards. I consider it because I consider that you're someone who would be in the know, but I'm not sold on it yet.
Well, I think that here's the thing. Just for example, like take this video. Once it's on YouTube, I will naturally tweet it out, right? And
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get some traffic from that. So I would just say if you're really trying to drive some traffic to your YouTube channel, even just having a basic Twitter account and say, hey, check out our YouTube video and do some hashtags and maybe tag a few of the people that, like we talked about Hulk Hogan today.
Sure.
Well, maybe you tag Hulk Hogan,
Yeah.
and or hashtag Hulk Hogan, and so I think it can help drive some page views.
All right, you're getting me kind of thinking about it. I might have to go and check and see if I want to start one. Damn it! I swear I was like, for my Vela cards one, there was a guy, his name is Dustin. We had him on a couple days ago, and he was the one who got me on Twitter to begin with on anything Twitter wise. So every year, annually, he puts out a tweet that says, "Yep, it's that time of year, folks. I got Vela cards to happen." And he tweets it's like that. And so my response to him is always, "Damn you, D2." So it's like an annual thing. It's like I never thought I'd be on Twitter. I just was happy and content with Facebook. But yeah, maybe I should do that. I probably will. I'm staying away from Instagram though. Forget it.
Well, the reason I think that Twitter is better is it's easier to just share the video and broadcast it out.
Of course, I want to get more subscribers, absolutely. But the primary focus here is to provide content to help people, because since there's an explosion of collecting now, a lot of people who are in it, who've been a long time, like yourself, myself, there are a lot of new people coming into the hobby now too, who are going, shit, I should probably get involved in this. There's some serious change in making this, whatever they want to do. But providing that content, maybe give them some information like that, and I think this is a good way to do it. And what else can I do with my time? I'm in lockdowns. What the hell am I supposed to do with my time? But
well, I'll tell you, I don't know how you view the traffic on your website. I'm sure you've got some analytics
sure.
to look at. The reality of it is that your site gets shared frequently on message boards or, people like I get a lot of direct messages on Twitter from collectors, whether it's from my tweets or whether they saw me on one of the interviews
sure.
or a message board. And they'll say, where should I get started? And I'm like, honestly, here's a website, go to WrestlingTradingCards.com, familiarize yourself with the checklist and see, because, let's say take Sting, we mentioned him earlier. He's got a huge amount of cards.
Mm-hmm.
And I think realistically, you know, like if somebody wants to collect Sting, it's nice to go and say, okay, there's X card, and then go to eBay or do a Google search. Maybe they find it on one of your websites or somebody else's sites for sale, one of those COMC sites, you know. So it just makes searching for products so much easier.
Yeah.
And like for me, what I used to do, and it was really great early on, I would try to find, we mentioned rookie cards. I just would go to your website and try to find the first card for that person listed and say, okay, that's the card of that person that I need to really target, you know. So it's been good. I mean,
It served its purpose, and I think so. It's
big time. Oh,
yeah.
I've been there. I can't tell you how many times I've used your website. It's been invaluable.
Well, it's inspiring, and I appreciate that, because it makes me want to go back and update it. But timing is always an issue. You know, the older stuff is easy to do, actually, because it's not very big giant sets, with the exception of NWA. Not a big giant set, so it's the newer stuff becomes really hard. And we have a lot of great members on the board, like, you know, Chuckster and Nick, and these guys out there have kept up to date with everything. So they've been willing to help, you know, keep these checklists going. So something we're going to probably do. We're going to be probably moving forward and try to piece a little bit here and there, but try to get all the old stuff up there first and kind of just redesign everything and bring it up to date.
Well, you got a lot of great stuff on there already. So
yeah.
I mean, the good news is that it's a wealth of information, and, you know, perhaps it can be expanded upon. But the reality of it is that for anybody trying to collect wrestling cards, it's a great roadmap.
So long as I can afford to keep paying the monthly service on it, which I've been doing now for almost 20 years, you know, they'll always be there. So it's my little baby. So we'll see how.
Well, thank you.
Going. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. But I appreciate you agreeing to come on like that. I mean, this is awesome. I mean, you're the expert of the 82, 83s, man, and I just had to have you on.
Well, thanks for having me on. And anybody out there listening, if you want to find me on Twitter, it's under DPEC100. I'm on Instagram at 1982 Wrestling All Stars. That's appropriately titled.
Yeah.
And you know, if you got any questions or I can be of any help on anything, just send me a message, and I try to get back to people quickly. And, you know, I just think you know, wrestling cards have been such a great part of my adult life. And so, you know, I try to help people get in the hobby, and, you know, it helps me. I mean, let's face it, the more people that get involved, the better it is for my cards.
Yeah, it's a nice, helps your investment greatly.
It does.
All right, man. Well, I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you again soon, okay?
All right, take care. You guys have a nice day.
You too. Bye.
Okay, see you. Bye.